I imagine that when writing a screenplay, it's difficult to strike the right balance between focusing on a storyline and keeping things tight, and giving too little outside information, leaving the world feeling a bit barren. This is usually where subplots come in handy, offering a bit of support without changing anything too much in the main storyline. But there are certain subplots out there that had way more power, and in this case, none of them survived. So I'm Amy from What Culture, and here are 9 deleted movie subplots that changed everything. 9. Nightcrawler, a sympathetic backstory. Nightcrawler's protagonist Lou Bloom is a bad person. He's not likeable, he's not relatable, and as much as we may try, we don't really understand why he does the things he does to the extent he does them. It would have changed the film's entire tone then if we were to be given some deep Lou lore. For instance, if we were shown sequences from his childhood that explained why he was like this. Maybe that he developed an obsession with death from a young age after his whole family was murdered in a break-in gone wrong, or something like that. Maybe we could understand. The initial intention was to paint Lou as a damaged person, a survivor archetype who was just trying to get by day to day, his morals being pushed to the wayside by harsh reality. There'd be a whole subplot revealing Lou's traumatic past and showing how it relates to his current self, but alas, this was not to be. Director Dan Gilroy decided it would actually be more effective if he just went the opposite way and made Lou unimaginably cold. He said it would detract from the experience if he had to set aside too much time to spend on Lou's past or give him any sympathetic scenes. And so, all of that was cut from the script, and the new Lou that we know today was born. 8. The Uninvited 1944. The Missing Priest. There is one line that remains in the final cut of this film today that betrays its earlier form, a line in which a character refers to a priest that we've never seen or heard of. Out of the blue and without much follow-up, it's a comment that's pretty easy to ignore, but if you know, then you know. Before the final cuts and touches, The Uninvited featured a whole subplot and additional character by way of Father Anson. In the book the film is based on, Uneasy Freehold by Dorothy McCardle, Father Anson is a local priest and a very big advocate for Mary's character. Worth noting here that Mary is of course the bad guy. He helped paint the picture, along with the other locals, of Mary being a beautiful, virtuous woman and her rival Carmel being ungodly. His input rooted the film's supernatural elements in more biblical origins, with heavier mentions of demons being the antithesis of angels rather than just run-of-the-mill monsters. Much of his motivation in the novel was that he wanted to perform an exorcism on the haunted house, something that could have made for some nice scary visuals if included in the film. Father Anson was however completely removed before the film ever reached audiences, taking with him his biblical brand of supernatural horror. 7. Love Actually, a much sadder story. Depending on your feelings about rom-coms, you might either absolutely adore or totally detest Love Actually. It's a sickly sweet Christmas classic, intertwining stories of various couples across the UK to deliver one united message: love is all you need. Merry Christmas. Well, originally, we were going to get a whole other couple included in this story, with this plot thread focusing on the school head teacher and her terminally ill partner. Not only would this have made for one overtly gay relationship in a film that's otherwise entirely straight, and don't try telling me that Bill Nye's character is gay representation, it's very ambiguous at best, but at the same time it also would have been the only one with an undebatably sad ending. We would have spent time with the couple in their home, the teacher caring for her partner as they come to terms with the inevitable, and then dealing with the aftermath when it happens. The story would have had a totally different tone than even the saddest other ones we know from the film today, and overall it would have shaped the movie to be slightly different, less perfect. Taking off some of the Christmas sparkle and the perfect happy ending could have actually been quite an interesting, good thing. But then again, not everyone wants sadness in their rom-coms, definitely not in the festive season either. 6. Hannibal, another serial killer. You may have noticed when watching the sequel to the infamous Silence of the Lambs that at one point a whole other serial killer is mentioned, a killer by the name of Il Mostro. In real life, Il Mostro refers to the monster of Florence, who murdered 14 people over the 70s and 80s. In fiction, Il Mostro has been firmly cemented into the story of Hannibal, first in the 1999 novel, where an investigator is left in disgrace after arresting the wrong man accused of being Il Mostro, and in the TV adaptation, whereby Hannibal and Il Mostro are alleged to be the same person. Finally, when it comes to this film, they almost met face to face. Well, that was until that whole bit was chopped out with Hannibal's own surgical precision. After referencing Il Mostro, he actually makes an appearance as Hannibal murders Chief Inspector Pazzi. Working as a janitor in Florence, he encounters the titular cannibal mid-murder but manages to escape with his life, soon afterwards fleeing the city. The subplot relating to Il Mostro's similarly horrible crimes, culminating in his appearance and fleeing, certainly wasn't the top of the priority list. It's kind of a shame really, because it was included in the book and the TV show for a reason. It's quite compelling, and so you really would have hoped that here it would be treated with more significance and not just cut. 5. Me Before You. Lou's tragic past. 2016's Me Before You tells the unlikely love story of a small-town girl and a recently paralysed billionaire. Based on the novel of the same name by Jojo Moyes, it stays fairly faithful to its source material, but one big detail is missing. In the novel, the explanation for why protagonist Lou is so scared to expand her horizons is that she experienced huge trauma as a teenager. We find out that at a party, Lou was sexually assaulted by a group of older boys, and following this, she shuts her entire life down. Author and screenwriter Moyes explained that she chose to leave it out as there was no way she could comfortably translate it to screen. In the book, she explains, the rape is covered in an almost throwaway manner, as if Lou hasn't processed it fully and instead keeps it tucked away in her mind. She explains it would have totally changed the tone of the story and done a disservice both to the character and the important subject matter. So Moyes made the smart decision to just call it quits. 4. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Mary Jane almost appeared. It seems unthinkable now that they would have crammed another character into this film, especially considering how well known it is for its overabundance of characters. But this wasn't just any old throwaway that they were going to chuck in there, it was the ever-iconic Mary Jane Watson. Shailene Woodley was cast in the role of Mary Jane and had filmed all of her scenes. The scenes weren't huge and her part wasn't going to be groundbreaking, but the goal was to lay some of the groundwork for her presence later in the future. With Gwen Stacy's death happening at the end of the film, I must say it would have felt a bit preemptive and calculated to start shoehorning in MJ in the very same picture. In the end, the decision to cut out MJ worked for the best. Gwen's death wasn't sullied by a rival romance, and the cast didn't burst at its seams, close as it was. 3. World War Z. Jerry's wife goes rogue. It's a heartwarming moment at the end of World War Z when Jerry reunites with his family, embraced happily by his adoring wife and children. It seems that a huge part of his motivation throughout is the thought of them being back together again, the drive to keep his family safe and get things back to a stage where they can live their happily ever afters. Well, there was almost a rather sour undertone to all of this, as initially there was going to be a subplot in which Jerry's wife begins an affair with a paratrooper. Oh yeah, sorry buddy, I know you're off saving the world, but I gotta get me some while you're away. This subplot would have led the film to dedicate more time to Jerry's family in his absence, and also change the family's dynamic on his return, in turn influencing the whole tone of the film's ending. In the end, it was decided that this little storyline wasn't worth the time it would eat up, and it was just deleted. In some ways, I think it almost could have improved the film, giving it less of a textbook happy ending. However, with everything being as miserable as it is these days, having a bland happy ending isn't the worst thing in the world. 2. Prometheus. Alien Jesus. Now, in a very sharp change of tone, I introduce you to Alien Jesus, a genuine real idea that was almost an important subplot in a genuine real movie. And not just any old movie, in 2012's already controversial Prometheus. If in doubt, just add Alien Jesus, that's what I've always said. And there's probably a reason I'm not a screenwriter, because apparently that would never work, hence why the explicit stating of Jesus was an alien sent to save you and you killed him, thus bringing about your own doom, being removed from Prometheus's plot. Ridley Scott, in an interview with the since-closed-down Movies.com, did not shy away from stating the film's biblical links. There are a number of scenes that mirror biblical and mythical events, but after deliberation, the filmmakers stopped short of actually making an official plot point of us finding out that Jesus was an engineer. The biblical stuff is super hinted at, but it's never actually explored as it was once intended. At one point, Scott even deliberated having us meet God, another engineer of course, in a potential sequel. Thankfully though, they backed down. 1. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, Loomis's Possession. Test audiences did the heavy lifting for us on this one and managed to get one terrible Halloween subplot kicked to the curb late on in production. The test cut of the 6th Halloween film, known as the producer's cut, varies quite markedly from the version we know today. The end of the producer's cut sets up a subplot to carry on even into the next film, meaning that had it not been removed, then the impact would be felt beyond this movie. Originally, Dr. Loomis was intended to become possessed by the Mark of the Thorn, the killy curse thing that makes Michael do bad things, and it was going to be passed to him by the now dead cult leader. The film would have ended with his desperate cry as he acknowledged his fate, but alas, the fate was removed. Audience members at the test screening despised the idea of Loomis becoming involved in the cult, and they vocally opposed it. And as a result, the whole thing was rethought. When it came time for reshoots, Loomis actor Donald Pleasance had sadly already passed away, so the whole concept of passing on the curse to him was scrapped, and instead Dr. Loomis simply meets his demise in an off-screen death. It's far less than he deserved, but you gotta work with what you've got. And on that note, we've reached the end of this list of 10 deleted movie subplots that changed everything. If you know any more really interesting ones, then let us know about them in the comments down below. And remember to check out whatculture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day. As always, I've been Amy from What Culture, and I'll catch you next time.